Hello YouTube, it's time for me to do my week 2 preseason review on the NFL season. I'm going to go game by game this week just because I feel the second preseason game is actually pretty important, especially compared to the first week of the preseason and the fourth week. So let's begin. The first game I'm going to talk about is the Raiders and Saints. Drew Brees looked very good. He connected on a deep ball. The pass was very good. Other than that, he was his typical accurate self. You could really tell Sean Payton being back has been positive for Drew Brees, and we could all expect him to be the same Drew Brees of 2 years ago instead of last year, where he kind of had to do everything on his own. On the Raiders, they did not look very good at all. You could tell there was offensive line problems. Props to Rob Ryan, defense coordinator for the Saints, new defense coordinator for the Saints, for attacking the Raiders' weak points. As us NFL fans know, Jared Veldheer is out for a long time. Raiders stud left tackle. He tore his tricep. That's devastating for the Raiders. They really don't have a left tackle option at this point. At least that'll be effective. Sources are saying that Alex Barron might be the starting left tackle for them. That doesn't bode well for the season. For the Raiders, who already had a struggling offensive line. Losing their best lineman does not help that cause at all. Next game is Lions and Browns. Brandon Weeden, so far, has looked pretty good in the preseason. Of course, it's preseason. You can't put too much stock into that, but at the same time, it's good to see him be very accurate. And maybe he can have a good season there in Cleveland. It's only his second year. We'll see what he can do. The Lions, they didn't look too sharp. Not really concerned there, especially with Stafford. Didn't have a connection with Calvin Johnson. Everyone expects that to be okay during the regular season. The biggest thing for the Lions is their defense. Is last year they couldn't stop anyone. This year we'll see what happens in the regular season. They couldn't stop Brandon Weeden though the other night, so we'll have to see more on the Lions as the year progresses. Next we'll talk about the Eagles and Panthers. Cam Newton was not very accurate at all. He struggled the first two preseason games. It's kind of what he did the last year. I mean, he wasn't very accurate either. He had a great first year. He was very accurate in the pocket and out of the pocket his first season. Last year he took a step back though, especially on passing. He is still a very effective runner, but Cam Newton needs to hit the next level of passing. To put the Panthers, their goal is to get into the playoffs, and he really needs to step up and be the leader of that team and be very accurate. The Eagles, on the other hand, looks like Vic solidly got that job. Nick Foles will not be getting the starting quarterback job. Mike Vick was 9 for 10. He did have an interception, but it looks like he really likes that Chip Kelly offense. I think it fits him well. The very fast pace, lets him use his legs and use that rocket arm. So, I'm very interested to see that offense progress during the year. It's going to be fun to watch. I mean, the Eagles are going to be, so up-paced, up-tempo. I love that for the NFL. I want to see more of that. So let's see how that progresses during the year. Mike Vick, though, got that job. Next is the Ravens, the Ravens and Falcons. Flacco and Ryan, they look pretty good. I mean, you don't really have to worry about them too much because, they're veteran quarterbacks. They know what it takes. They're right now just getting on tap with the receivers, as Matt Ryan and Julio Jones look like they're in the groove already. The big thing for the Ravens is especially the receiving core. They did lose Anquan Boldin via the trade in the offseason, so Torrey Smith stepped up. He had a big catch. He's going to have to do that more this year. Be that number one guy instead of that stretch guy. He's got to be the guy that, even the move the chains guy, not just the big down, to produce from the loss they had of Anquan Boldin. Next is the Chargers and Bears. That was a very entertaining game. It was on Thursday night. It was on national television. The Bears offense looks very fluid. Mark Trestman, really strives in that. He's been offense coordinator for multiple teams, coaching the CFL. That's kind of what he strives for. Short, quick passes, but at the same time, the ability to go deep when the time is right. Brandon Marshall and Jay Cutler look on the same page. Matt Forte looks fantastic. You guys remember, he held out in previous years, so seeing him look good is huge for the Bears. Keller did have an interception, but other than that, the offense looked very good. Defense was too. Chargers, Phillip Rivers, I don't know. I mean, I know it's preseason, but he still looks like he's not sharp at all. I think the biggest thing for them is their offensive line. I mean, that's the thing that struggled for Rivers the past couple of years. Ever since the Marcus McNeil downfall, the left tackle that they had, he had a big holdout. And he hasn't been the same, or he wasn't the same since. They did draft DJ Fluker to help on that line, but you must protect Phillip Rivers because he's not very quick. You need to keep people off of him. When he has time, though, he's incredibly accurate, and that was what he was known for in his first couple of years in the league, when he was throwing for over 4,000 yards every season, barely having any interception. So we'll see more from the Chargers, but so far, looks a little rocky. So next we'll talk about the Vikings and Bills. The big thing heating up in Minnesota is the quarterback situation. I do expect Christian Ponder to get that job, but Matt Castle is still going to push him to play his best. Both of them didn't look sharp the other night, but then again, no AP in the backfield. You can't really put too much stock in that. On the Bills, EJ Manuel looks fantastic. Everyone criticized that pick. Ooh, how could you take him so early? But he's trying to prove people wrong, as you can see. He did have an injury, but I don't expect that much. If he's not the starter week 1 of the NFL season, he will be by the end of the year. It looks like he does have the accuracy and mainly the intangibles. He looks like he could be a solid starter in the league. So let's see how that progresses too. Next game is the 49ers and Chiefs. As expected, defensive shootout. Very good defenses going at it, and you could tell right away. The interesting thing here was Colin Kaepernick only threw the ball a couple times. He threw it 2 times for -3 yards. So it looks like Harbaugh was saw enough. He decided, hey, let's just pull out Kaepernick. I don't blame him. Preseason, Kaepernick's more of a running guy anyways, and it takes one scramble and then one hit for him to tear his ACL and be out for the year. You don't want that at all. The next game is the Bucs and Patriots. Tom Brady, the injury scare is no more. I mean, he looked fantastic. It was nearly perfect. The Tom Brady we all expect and love. Patriots are going to be ready to go. Receiving core, I mean, he's going to make the best of what he has. It's what he's done all his career. I expect him to do it again this year. Did it the other night. The Bucs, Doug Martin did get hurt in this game. That's big for them. He was a fantasy football stud, by the way, last year, so fantasy owners, might be a little hesitant. He did suffer a concussion from a knee of another player. Hopefully he gets a speedy recovery. The Bucs really need him to spell defensive lines to help out Josh Freeman, who has struggled. Make or break year for him for sure. I mean, he needs to get it going, or he might not be in the starter. He might not be a starter in the league anymore. So hopefully he gets it together. Next is the Titans and Bengals, and Andy Dalton looked sharp. So did Jake Locker. The big thing I got out of this game is Giovanni Bernard got a touchdown. He's out of North Carolina. Very, very speedy guy, and he's just another threat for the Bengals to open it up. I mean, they have AJ Green, but really no other weapons. But Giovanni Bernard could be that guy. They expect the Bengals to win that AFC North. Love their defense, by the way. Next is the Cowboys and Cardinals. Des Bryant, looked very good. Everyone's saying Des Bryant, best fantasy receiver coming up this year. That remains to be seen. He does have an injury history. Dallas did look sloppy, though, especially in the turnovers. Kind of preseason jitters. I don't expect them to do that. And then the Cowboys have those weird games in regular season where they look like, the best team in the world, and the next week they are just dreadful. So maybe it's just one of those games where they just look dreadful. Cardinals, on the other hand, Larry Fitzgerald looks like he's back, ready to go. He's got a solid quarterback in Carson Palmer to get the ball to him. Strong arm, one of the strongest in the league. Bruce Arians is new head coach. Cardinals could be a really exciting team to watch. 2 cornerbacks there in the backfield. Peterson and Tyrann Mathieu, fun to watch. A lot of talent. Next is the Jags and Jets, and those Jags, I mean, they're just tough to watch. Although Blaine Gabbert, he did play well. he needs to get it going. I mean, this talk about make or break year. He's got to get it. He's like the first couple games of the year. He's got to play well, or he's done. I mean, he won't have another shot after this. Mark Sanchez showed his inconsistency. The Jets. I don't know. I mean, it's the Jets. They get a lot of media coverage, but are they that good? No. I mean, they did blow out the Jags, but it's the Jags, and they're arguably the worst team in the NFL. By the way, jerseys I'm not a fan of. Next is the Packers and Rams. Aaron Rodgers looks good as always. That's really not a concern for them. Eddie Lacy, everyone's saying, oh, he's fat. There's Twitter, pictures of him on Twitter before the season started in training camp. He looked out of shape. He had 8 carries for 40 yards. He could be that guy that spells for the Packers. They're still not going to run it much when you got number 12 back there. But, if he could help them out, help out Rodgers, that struggling offensive line, running game would be a plus for them. For the Rams, their defense did look very good. They didn't give up any touchdowns to the starters of the Packers. Also, Tavon Austin, their first-round pick out of West Virginia, had 4 catches. Maybe he'll be that slot guy for Sam Bradford, because the thing, the Rams, I mean, they had a pretty good defense last year, but on offense, they just have no explosive players at all. I mean, Steven Jackson, but he was in the later part of his career. He's on Atlanta, but Tavon Austin hopefully can open it up a little bit, because the Rams, I mean, I watched a good bit of their games last year, and whew, I mean, while on defense they were fun to watch, on offense, just turn off the TV, they're not going to score. So hopefully you can see more explosive plays from them this year. The next game is the Dolphins and Texans. Ryan Tannehill is improving, like everyone saw at the end of last year. I expect him, to be a pretty good quarterback actually this year. Maybe sophomore slump, but Dolphins in the right direction. Got Mike Wallace in the offseason, wide receiver, to help him out. Matt Schaub, he looked decent. The big thing for him, the Texans drafted DeAndre Hopkins out of Clemson. He is a dynamite player, and if he could be what he was in college, opposite of Andre Johnson, that opens up everything for the Texans. I mean, the thing on offense, everyone's like Andre Johnson, Arian Foster, and then you got DeAndre Hopkins. Play action deep could be really deadly to him. So if he could pan out, the Texans could have one of the better offenses, like they usually do in the NFL, but could be more explosive, bigger plays. The next game is the Seahawks and Broncos. The Seahawks whipped them up on the scoreboard, but there's one thing to take note. Peyton Manning looked fantastic. There's no concerns with him. The neck injury, all that. He proved last year that he is fine. The Broncos need to improve on turnovers-wise. They were not good. They turned the ball over a lot, so they need to improve on that. The Seahawks look explosive. They look hungry. I know it's preseason, but the Seahawks, Pete Carroll, he knows how to push the right buttons. That team is ready to go. They're going to be one of the more fun teams to watch this year. Year 2 of Russell Wilson. I'm very excited about that as well. Last game we're going to talk about was today. That was the Colts and Giants. Andrew Luck is on point. People have sophomore slumps and all that. I don't think that applies to Andrew Luck. He gets better and better. They also got Jarius Hayward-Bay in the offseason. Probably a fantasy sleeper, actually. He's going to spell for Reggie Wayne. That gives them more explosiveness, too. One thing, the Colts they did have a good bit of big plays last year, but Hayward-Bay has that play, whenever he touches the ball, he could take it to the house. That's huge for the Colts. On the Giants side, Eli Manning really struggled. Still no concerns with him. Eli, he has his really good games, really bad games, but the Giants, they still find a way. Preseason, for that experienced team, not a big deal. I wouldn't be concerned if you're a Giants fan. That's the wrap-up of preseason week 2. I hope to see you guys in week 3. Talk more about the most important week of preseason.
Anything goes, anything goes. You never know what we're gonna show on Anything Goes.